好的，各位下午好，欢迎各位来参加。
Good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fifth session of the International Conference. My name is Sandra Liu. I am the head of a technical team at HTC Vive Originals. We are nearing the end of today's program. We have heard excellent presentations throughout the day. Today, the cultural landscape is entering a new phase. New lives and momentum have been created for the cultural landscape. 5G, AI, big data, and blockchain are bringing future to the present time. The development of soft and hardware have enabled the scanning and capturing of human faces, movements, and the environment. The captured data is then fed into a virtual environment, bringing the physical and the virtual as one. Multiple perspectives, interactive experience, immersive theater, and audience experience are redefining the boundaries between culture and technology. The industry is innovating itself as we speak, removing the boundaries on our imagination. We have moved away from the green screen. We are working with real-time algorithms, real-time projections, so you could see the final product as you shoot. The light stages and the light probes have enabled us to insert actors and objects in different scenes. All these different technologies and know-hows are ushering a new chapter of the VFX revolution. Joining us today will be Paul Divovec, Google Research Team, Senior Staff Engineer, Chris Edwards, CEO, The Third Floor, Norman Wang, CEO and co-founder at Glassbox Technologies, Lin Cha-Chi, founder of Moonshine Animation, Kuo-Cha Chen, Division Director of Arts Technology Computing Division at NAR Labs, NCHC. There will be a panel discussion involving all the panelists after the keynote speakers have each given their presentation. Toward the end, there will be about 10 minutes for Q&A. You're more than welcome to submit your questions by using our Slido software. Here, Paul is already online. Should we start with Paul? No, we shouldn't start with Paul. I was told by the technician that we will start with Chris Edwards. So please help me welcome Mr. Edwards.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I'm Chris Edwards, CEO and co-founder of The Third Floor, or D-San Lo, coming to you virtually from Los Angeles, California, where we are working so hard every day to help hundreds of filmmakers and other designers, many studios around the world, plan their next wave of creative content despite this very disruptive pandemic. Ironically, COVID-19 has actually had the opposite effect on the visualization business. All those travel restrictions and safety concerns on set have highlighted the need for even more intuitive virtual collaboration tools, and certainly advanced virtual production pipelines to enable creators to plan and shoot their content anywhere without even having to travel, helping storytellers find more efficient and impactful ways of bringing their visions to life has been my lifelong obsession, a journey to improve the very process of content creation that I'm so honored to begin sharing with you today.
克里斯·爱德华兹1974年出生于
Chris Edwards was born in Maryland, the U.S. in 1974. His parents, one of them is a rocket scientist, the other one is a tailor, and he's been in contact with many films and books from a young age. And one day his mother brought back home a book on industrial light and magic. And the book was about how artists and producers use technology to create films and also special visual effects. So starting from then, Chris knew that, first of all, he wanted to go to film school and he wants to work really hard and to join George Lucas's team and to work with people like Steven Spielberg so that they could pursue innovation in visual production. And after he left school, he joined Disney with a lot of different artists to plan for different projects. And then Chris was invited to join George Lucas's team. And he also worked on the Skywalker Ranch. And he was able to complete more than half of the visual effects in after 500 years. And they then also joined in the work of Star Wars. After that, Spielberg also joined in the projects as a co-director and also made good use of Chris and his team's 3D technologies. After working on the Skywalker Ranch for 2 years, Chris successfully persuaded his counterparts to start a new studio. And in 2010, the Third Floor was founded in LA, California. Its reputation became better and better, and they were involved in many successful projects. For example, Narnia and also Iron Man. They were able to win great acclaim and also business opportunities. And the Third Floor also worked with George Lucas to help them produce the Star Wars movies as well as TV drama series. And right now, the Third Floor has presence all over the world. They are involved in more than 75% of the Hollywood movies every year. They work with Game of Thrones or Avengers and different projects. And in the past 15 years, Chris used his technologies or their technologies in films, in theme parks, in animations, and also other types of immersive projects using AR and VR. Chris is dedicated to the Third Floor and is dedicated to innovation in technologies. Even though he is a leader of the pack in the field, his greater goal is for people to get in touch with this kind of visualized technology.
We worked with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, and we really wanted to expand that around the world. And I'm proud to announce that we've been able to do that, first in Europe, and now recently in Beijing. We support filmmakers that are often doing some of the most ambitious and technically challenging projects, like these American directors. And these are some of the blockbuster films that we've touched recently, although we deliver over 100 projects a year, designing shot by shot, frame by frame, and entire films this way. And we have been also quietly working with directors in China, including all of these amazing luminaries that we just really had such a pleasure working with. Their projects are no less ambitious, in fact, often more ambitious than the American directors. And this means that we really need to support not only these pioneering directors, but all creators throughout China. And that's why when I first came to China, I knew that there was a real drive for pushing the state-of-the-art in visualization within China. I had been invited to a film festival to be a jury member alongside the chairman, Feng Xiaogong, and so impressed with not only my jury members, but all of the applicants that were submitting films to this short film festival in Shenzhen. And I knew that there was a destiny for me to be back in China with my own office. And now I'm proud to announce that we're there in the heart of Beijing, on the east side in the Chaoyang district. That's where our new Third Floor Beijing studio is located. And it's a full Third Floor operation, so we're there with our very highly trained team that's ever expanding and ready to meet all of your needs as we work together to create the biggest international hits. So how does it all work? Well, the visualization process starts with an idea or a story, often written down as a script, or it's just the concept of a creative visionary. Then we do a few storyboards to depict the action as simply as possible on a piece of paper. And as soon as you know where that action is taking place, whether it's a real location or whether it's a fantasy location or some of both, you can build that using a giant library of 3D assets that we have created over the years. Anything from different environments to characters, crowds, and even effects elements can be rearranged and built into a world for the director to explore. And just like how James Cameron explored the first version of Pandora, the world of Avatar that we helped him build. After you build the world, there's so much you can do to explore with virtual cameras and other equipment, and then bring the action to life with animation, with motion capture, and all kinds of different tools to be able to extract the data out of the decisions that you're making in this virtual prototype. The next step is to work on the post-production of the project, and in order to make sure that that process goes smoothly, the pre-visualization team can work with a visual effects studio to ensure that the results are as efficient as humanly possible, working to create an early version of a movie or a concept well before the final money is spent to deliver the final project. So it really is about a continuum of support from the very earliest stages of development, where someone has an idea, all the way through the final delivery of that project. And this is what we do on television series as well. Some of you may be fans of the Game of Thrones, the highly awarded and popular HBO drama. And as you can see here, the more complicated shots in each of these episodes are designed in previs and then also used using a process called TechViz, planned technically, so that the crew, the live action crew, knows exactly how to shoot all of these tricky moments. So you can see here how the early visualization on the left becomes a reality in the final episode. And it's not uncommon that these comparisons look very, very similar. This is often the case where we're able to get the visualization to look very close to the final result, yet for a fraction of the cost. So the value of visualizing in advance is very well understood. It maximizes your story, it makes it more efficient to execute on your project and to make it a reality, and also boosts the quality of your visuals, therefore probably making it more successful. And this is something that can work not just in film and television, but also across many other areas of media and entertainment. For example, you know, the beyond television shows, commercials, advertisements, Yoshi, video games, all of the storytelling moments in video games and virtual reality, other forms of immersive entertainment like theme park attractions. All of these have a common core that is storytelling, that is visualized, and must be enjoyed by a large audience. And I wanted to mention the themed entertainment because actually our journey as Third Floor on our own, when we first formed the company, our very first project was in Hong Kong next to Shenzhen. And for Ocean Park, the Sea World, Sea Life Park, we were honored by being the chosen vendor to visualize the new expansion of the park. So as you can see here, even though this was many, many years ago, it was a really helpful visualization for the local government to understand how this park would look once all the expense and effort had been put into realizing and building the park. This is what we call a pitch viz. So I want to tell you a little bit more about some of the advanced technologies that have been developed and that we have been using and furthering to help creators take their vision even farther and to become even more efficient. So for example, some of the video game engine technologies such as Epic Games' Unreal Engine 4 and soon to be Unreal Engine 5 are really changing the game here. And all of these tools can be used not just for games, but of course for films and television series. So you can see here where we created a virtual reality experience that allows the designers of this project to be able to go in and look at complex sets and lens them using a virtual reality camera. They can place themselves anywhere in the set. They can arrange walls and basically make a film with inside the computer in real time, along with the crew and everyone else while we participate together in crafting the design for every scene and every moment in the film. Also, you can go beyond the virtual reality and bring some of those elements into augmented reality. Augmented reality is a great way to take the elements that you've created in the computer and play them back against the real world. So you can see here, this is a studio lot, and we're using our iPad to overlay this futuristic car like in Blade Runner and seeing the set extension of the various bigger, taller buildings and how they would align to the rest of the set. So this is the tool we call Cyclops. It is really making waves in the industry and getting everyone very excited about merging the worlds of the digital direction as well as the live action elements. And last but not least, I want to tell you about the real advances in virtual production live on set. We were so honored to work with Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas and Disney's acclaimed visual effects studio, to create the Mandalorian television series. This was such a pioneering show because there's a new technique which has a almost 360-degree screen of LED panels that is surrounding the actors and the crew. So from any perspective, it looks as though, and it feels like you are actually in that futuristic environment. As you can see here, this is a cold, icy planet, and the lighting on the character is so realistic that you can actually treat this photography as final without any visual effects for certain shots. You can also use the volume and the screen to get you lots of different types of environments. So you can quickly switch out many different environments and have a very efficient shooting day. Here's some of the work that we did while designing shots for this Mandalorian Season 1. And as you can see, the crew can maneuver within these environments and use all the technical TechViz data we created as a guide for how to shoot the action and to really maximize how that background element is being used. Now this is just for this television series, but imagine the ramifications for this when you're really talking about applying this to the design process beyond film and television, to design malls, design products, to design any type of experience that your consumers will want to engage with. The overwhelming success of Lucasfilm's The Mandalorian on Disney Plus has really kicked off a virtual renaissance of creativity and technical innovation, which has only just begun. LED stages and powerful game engines like the Unreal Engine are only going to become higher resolution, more immersive, more detailed, and more realistic to result in something that looks a lot like the holodeck in Star Trek. However, the key to the future of widespread virtual production is not just the increasingly advanced and complicated underlying technology. The real key is going to be to make the virtual production workflow easier and easier for traditional crew members and artists to engage with, using familiar conventions and intuitive interfaces that mimic the types of equipment that they have always used. This is certainly our focus at the third floor as we support so many inspired and a diverse range of creators all around the world. I hope you are as excited as I am about where all this is headed, where visualization and virtual production can take us, and all the content that's going to be created. And I want to encourage all the young creators out there in the audience to consider using visualization and virtual production techniques in their own process to help optimize and realize their next creative endeavors. Shei to Taika for inviting me to this extremely relevant and very important conference. I'm honored, and I hope to see you all in Taiwan in 2021. Stay safe, everybody, and make sure to binge watch Mandalorian Season 2 before this is all over. Thank you so much.
谢谢 Chris.
Thank you, Chris Edwards, for sharing your insights with us. The third floor is a highly esteemed company in the field of VFX. For the dynamic previewing, it is a very crucial stage in the production of VFX. So his presentation really laid the groundwork for our discussion today. And the next presenter is someone who I really look up to and who is also a good friend of mine. He is a legend in the field of VFX. And a lot of us have read many of his papers and have binge-watched his videos, lectures online. He is known for the light stage as well as light field. He's currently working as a senior staff engineer at the Google research team. Now, please help me welcome Paul Debovic.
Hello. Hi, can people hear me?
Yes.
I think I look like I'm on the screen. It looks like my slides are on the screen. And thanks so much to all the technical people here at the Taiwan Creative Content Festival. It's a pleasure to be here. It's also a pleasure to follow my friend Chris Edwards talking about some of the new advances in virtual production, which are very interesting because nowadays, with streaming services, there's a great interest in creating content more efficiently. We want things that look like feature films done on a fraction of the budget. And also, now during a global pandemic, there's interest in production techniques that can be done safely, even while people need to practice a greater degree of social distancing. And virtual production actually provides a solution for that as well. A lot of these techniques make use of surrounding actors with LEDs, and I thought I would talk about a couple of projects that do that. We've been working on, in my laboratory at the University of Southern California's Institute for Creative Technologies, and also in my laboratory at Google Research, both in Los Angeles, in building varieties of devices called light stages, which surround actors with LED lighting for a couple of purposes. One of them is to light them the right way for a virtual production. Another one of those is to illuminate them in a way that we can digitize them realistically. And right here, you're seeing our Light Stage 6 system that we built actually about 15 years ago. And with a variety of technologies, these things have led all the way up to the kinds of LED screen virtual productions that we're seeing in some of today's big streaming shows. So dialing it back to almost 20 years ago, the first time that we surrounded actors with color LEDs to get the lighting right was in 2002 for a SIGGRAPH paper where we called this a lighting reproduction approach to live action compositing. And we had already developed technology for recording light in the real world and using it to illuminate computer generated objects. We would take high dynamic range panoramic images and use that to light computer generated objects, CGI objects, and that gets used to illuminate dinosaurs in Jurassic Park movies, to Iron Man's suit, to synthetic vehicles and spaceships. But lighting real actors required actually building a lighting apparatus around the actor that could reproduce light in the real world, the colors and intensities of light from everywhere, like you can see here in our Light Stage 3 device. And again, this is almost 20 years ago now. But if you take a look at some of the animations, you can see that we were able to take one of our panoramic images, unwrap it onto the surface of the stage, drive the lights of the stage with this lighting environment. In this case, it's some beautiful lighting recorded in a cathedral. And now it is reproducing that light onto our actor to make them look as if they are there. I also helped build an infrared compositing system. We didn't use green screen. We used a channel of invisible light in the infrared in order to do the composite, which gave us better control over the lighting. No one else has picked up on that one yet, but just wait a few years. We'll see. Here's another scene with our friend Alana. And this final example shows a virtual set of the Parthenon and having an actor walk through this virtual set as the lighting changes on them to make it look like they're going into shadow and back into sunlight and into shadow and back into sunlight. So we asked Alana here to pretend to walk forward as the lighting is played back on her and then composited into the scene. You can see she walks into the sun, walks into the shadow. But this image here is a virtual production system that my lab built a few years ago for a company called Sous in Beijing, China, where they have a need in their visual effects company sometimes to add an actor into the scene that they've already shot in a TV show. And they need to add another actor that wasn't really there when they did principal photography. And this gives a way that you could eventually film all of your actors individually, and then the stage creates the lighting on them to make them look like they're lit by the scenes that were shot somewhere else. And hopefully it looks realistic. So they gave me a demonstration of this a little while ago. This is our friend Dong, who runs the stage over there. And you can see they're directing me toward a chair, and they have this scene prepared of some Chinese actors talking to each other. And they asked me if I would like to try to be added into the scene virtually. So they're explaining to me that I'm going to have to do a little bit of acting. And I'm there in front of the green screen. And the result, I'll skip forward here. And maybe you'll hear the audio. We'll see here. So very dramatic scene. And hopefully it looks like maybe I was really there because I have been lit with a reproduction of the light that was originally there on set. In this case, they have a way of estimating the light from the original footage from the faces of the actors and then reproducing it in the light stage. So let's take a look at some more professional content that they've created. This actor playing the doctor was not actually really on set. In fact, originally there was a different actor playing this character, and they needed this actor to take over the role, but they had already shot some of the footage. So they used their light stage to reproduce the lighting on him to add him into these scenes that were already shot. And it was pretty believable and pretty effective. And they can actually produce 80 to 100 shots per day using this technology, which is very efficient. So this isn't the first time that we had worked on professional productions using this lighting reproduction technique. We had a chance to collaborate with filmmakers Alfonso Cuarón and his cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki on trying out LED lighting reproduction for a feature film, even back in the year 2010, which was the movie that would become Gravity. And we tried this with our light stage that we had up in Burbank with 600 lights all around reproducing the illumination with some test actors. And when it became time to shoot the actual movie with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, they built a higher density LED stage with LED panels called the light box to play back the lighting from the Earth, from the sun, from the space station, so that their faces would be lit the right way. And when composited into the digital astronaut suits, it would look like they were part of the scene. That's Asura. And this, I am pretty sure, is still the largest production that has used the LED panels. Their system was 26 meters by 20 meters by 8.5 meters tall. A lot of these LEDs are built in China, so they're available. And you can see here, and this is from 3 years ago now, that they have been able to display a beautiful outdoor scene where these two actors are going to be added in, and they automatically create a little bit of blue behind them where the camera viewpoint is, so they can do some post-compositing, and they still have to build a little bit of the set below with some grass. And if we take a look at the final composite, the composite is realistic because the lighting was recreated with the LEDs, and it looks like they're outside on this mountaintop, even though they're really in the studio. So you can do your production a lot more safely than having to have everyone travel to location at this point. And it looks more realistic than traditional green screen. They did very elaborate visual effects where they would actually do wire stunts, people flying around inside the set. You can see some amazing scenes that are being displayed in all directions on the panels. This is a final scene in the throne room where the special king here has very elaborate sets all around him. They're providing the illumination on him, but they saved a lot of money building these sets because they can simply display them on the LED panels. And as Chris Edwards noted, this is also very useful for having your actors feel like they are really in the scene.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, we will move on to the next panelist. Once Paul is back online, we will invite him to join we'll invite Paul to join the panel discussion. Now, the time in California is about 1 a.m. I would like to thank him for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us. But as we work on the technical difficulties, we would like to invite our panelists to go on stage to join the panel discussion. Please help me welcome Norman Wang, Lin Cha Chi, and Kuo Cha Chen.
Actually, I saw Paul's talk at RTC, so I have an idea of what Paul was going to say. All right. But I think I should have you introduce yourselves first, because there are some people not only from the VFX world, but also from the culture and arts world. Let's start with Dr. Guo from the NCHC. Tell us what institution you're from and what you've been busy with. Thank you, Sandra. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here at the Taiwan Creative Content Fest. My name is Guo Jiazhen from the Division of Art Technology Computing Division at NAR Labs, NCHE. We offer high-speed computing equipment and facilities to the academia. And in 2011, we had this idea to take the platform and to invite artists and also animation directors to use what we offer. And because there were films like Avatar at the time, we were inspired. And in the past 10 years, it's been a great ride because this is a platform built by engineers, but we have the opportunity to work with artists so that we can use our computer to make stories, to tell stories. And we provide cloud services that include real-time rendering. So it's applied to animation, to gaming, and also to theater workers and artists. And we've been working with the Hongyi Studio as well. So we've been able to work cross disciplines and venture into theater. So it's been a sweet journey, and we will continue going forward. Thank you, Dr. Guo. I'm sure many of you have used the cloud computing services offered at NAR Labs. And now let's move on to Lin Jiaqi. Hi, I am from Moonshine Animation. We work on post-production of films and commercials as well as TV series. And in terms of animation, we focus a lot on research and development using new technologies, for example, motion capture or LED studios. We've been able to work on existing technology and develop new technologies. Thank you, Jiaqi. And now, next to me is Norman. Can you introduce yourself? Hi, my name is Norman. My company is called Glassbox Technologies. We are a company based in LA. Our headquarters is in LA. Our R&D center are in Australia and also Germany. And what we work with are software tools for virtual shooting, and also consultation and design services in virtual shooting. We use tools like Maya Blender and also technologies that have to do with gaming engines, and we combine AR and VR to provide off-the-shelf softwares and also processes. And because of COVID-19, I've been in Taiwan since March. So it's wonderful that we can take state-of-the-art technology overseas back to Taiwan. And when we heard from Chris Edwards from the third floor, a lot of what he's mentioned, actually, I have to say that the third floor is our largest client. A lot of the tools that they use, we co-developed together. So I think we can touch upon that later in the panel. Thank you, Norman. And for all of you, if you have any questions related to virtual filming, you can ask Norman. I think Paul's voice is back online, right? Paul, can you say a few words? Yes. Can you continue to finish what you were saying?
I don't know if you saw the last little video, but it was just talking about some work that we've done at Google, where we have actually built the very latest light stage, where we actually can film people in a way that we can change both the viewpoint and the lighting on them as a post-production process. So it offers new flexibility in filmmaking, where you can virtually move the camera after the fact or change the lighting on the actors after the fact, because we actually film from lots of cameras surrounding the actors, and we film under a sequence of very rapid lighting conditions, so fast that the actors can't even see them, but we actually are digitizing their reflectance properties every single frame of video so that you can put new virtual light sources around them and do your cinematography as a post-production process if that gives you more flexibility. So we're trying to continue on in the virtual production area. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what the rest of our panelists have to do. They're working on other very important parts of the virtual production process.
Okay, thank you, Paul. 所以我可以说 Paul 这边的
So when it comes to virtual production, Paul is saying that when you take data from the real environment and apply it to light so that you can put a person into a virtual scene. Is that right?
That's the goal. Like a final scene, you want everything to look like it was shot at the same time by the same camera in the same environment with, the same lighting of that environment. But in modern production processes, often some of the characters are digital, some of them are real. The environment can be a virtual set, but there can be real prop elements. And so we need these technologies of image-based lighting and real-world LED image-based lighting in order to marry all of these elements together to make it look realistic.
没错，我也认为
Lighting is one of the most important factors when it comes to compositing. Because sometimes when you look at a final composited image, when you find something that's a little bit off, it's 90% of the time it's because the lighting is a bit off. Okay, now let's move on. Maybe Norman and Jiaqi could respond to this question. You work with virtual studios, so maybe Jiaqi could talk about your experience and your latest projects, please.
We started getting ready for virtual production about 2 years ago. It's not that common in Taiwan yet, so not much talent here. And because a lot of the projects, they don't have much budget. So virtual production, it's quite popular overseas, but not as so in Taiwan. And we had a project in September. Everything, this is actually a TV drama with PTS Taiwan called Cha Jing. And everything is filmed in a vehicle. And we worked quite well on the project. Originally, we had a green screen and also an LED studio. And so when filming, the director can see the end results on the screen. And also, there are many environment lighting on the faces of the characters. It's so subtle, sometimes it's hard to observe. However, through this kind of virtual studio, we're able to showcase that kind of lighting. And I think the greatest impact is for us, people in post-production and also VFX. It's easy for us because we can get everything done right then. We only need to work on the lighting and just make some modifications afterwards. And usually before, when we shot in a vehicle, there's so much we needed to do. But if all of that can be done in a virtual studio, for example, the chassis of the car has to be post-produced, and also the lighting on the faces of the character, that is so time-consuming to do in post-production. However, in terms of virtual studios, we can make the light seem quite real, and that also helps the crew and the director on site to know what they're supposed to do and what effect they're trying to create. And we would have, for example, the crew using branches to make differences in terms of the lighting and the shadow, and that's quite conducive to shooting, especially in terms of the costs. So before, if we were to make a scene like that, we needed to apply for the use of the roads, and also we needed a tractor to do everything. And that needed maybe 500,000 NT dollars to do. However, for a virtual studio, when we do that, it takes maybe 1/5 or 2/5 of the cost. So that is what's different about filming in Taiwan. A lot of kind of LED studios help you make the impossible possible. But in Taiwan, it can help you save in terms of budget and in terms of costs. And for our client, they have a lot of scenes that they have to shoot in India and in Thailand. But because we cannot travel due to COVID-19, people may have to be quarantined if they travel. So they decided to get a lot of footage and to shoot where we are located. So that's what we've been working on. Thank you, Jiaqi. Yeah, virtual studios can solve these kind of issues if we cannot travel to a specific destination. But to build that kind of a virtual studio, that also is quite expensive, right? So for people, when they think about lowering the cost in filming, that's not always the case because you need to spend money to also build a virtual studio, right? Every project is probably different. And I also like to ask Norman, you worked with Epic Games and also in working with the Mandalorian IML in the virtual studio in the front-end technology development. So can you talk a little bit about that experience? My company is involved in tools and technology. We offer technologies to companies like the Third Floor. So in that sense, in terms of the involvement of technology, we see LED studios being the way of the future. And when we saw Paul's talk, or when we listened to Paul's talk, we can see that it is the trend. And starting from 2010, they started using these technologies. The light arrays were not that sophisticated yet at the time. And what we're seeing today is an extension, be it green screen or interactive lighting or rebuilding of the light. These are different applications in different environments. And what we've been involved in has to do with using LED plus green screen and plus blue and green lights or all LED shooting. So it depends on the scale. We have had huge productions, but also small productions that we've worked on. For a smart lighting, you can use an affordable price to create more complex lighting effect. So you don't need to have the budget of the Mandalorian to be able to create a lot of the effects that you want. As long as you can master the technology, you can find the best tools to create what you want to do and also to solve the problems that you face. So I think that is an important takeaway. So my company, we know what the current technology is like, but we know how to extend or piggyback on those technologies. And some of our partners, they take existing technology and integrate it into a shooting solution. So in the industry, I think we need to have a leader that goes from 0 to 1 in terms of technologies, but also to make the technologies practical by integrating the entire system. So it works. I think it's two sides of the same coin. Thank you, Norman. Right, we are very envious of the huge productions in Hollywood. Yet at the same time, we can adopt different methods and more strategic ways to work with the resources we have. In terms of VFX professionals, as long as we're able to meet the needs of directors and studios, I think we've done the job. And now I'd like to ask Paul another question. This is something I'm quite curious about. In the past, looking at your experience and when you talk about light stage as an accident in a way or a coincidence because you couldn't afford LED lights. And so that's how light stage was built. And incidentally, it became a capturing system to capture people's subtle expressions. And in 2019, you were able to win an award at the Oscars. So this kind of coincidence and capturing the facial expressions, what does it mean to you today? Because what...
journey because the original purpose of the light stage was to simply surround people real people with an image of the environment around them to get the lighting right. And over the course of just realizing we have this controllable lighting sphere, we found lots of other useful things to do. So one of the things is we just turn one light on at a time, and we record what we call the reflectance field of somebody, where we can then remix these 300 images of the person lit from every direction to show them under new forms of illumination after the fact. And we're now using that data at Google for machine learning algorithms to learn how to take the lighting in a photograph and actually change it to the lighting in a different scenario. So you can actually change the lighting in your selfie after you've taken it because of machine learning from the light stage that we built at Google. That was unanticipated. And another thing that Shishwan mentioned is that we developed, starting in 2006, a high-resolution facial scanning technique where we found special forms of lighting with the light stage that light from different directions, but also change the polarization of the light. We put polarization filters on the lights in the camera that gave us the ability to do very, very accurate photogrammetry of a face inside the stage, down to 1/10 of a millimeter detail from skin pores and fine creases. And we got these 3D models that had such good facial texture, they started using this in movies like Avatar to create the digital creatures based on real actors, Blade Runner 2049 to create the young Rachel character, Furious 7 to create Paul Walker after he had passed for the scenes that he had not completed. And that, but by far, has been the most movies have used that. About 40 movies have done that, and that's why it was recognized with an Academy Scientific and Technical Award. And now that virtual production is embracing the very, very original idea of the light stage, of surrounding the actors with LEDs to light them with the light of your virtual set. It's really bringing it all full circle, and it's a thrill to see this.
Wow, thanks, Paul. Thank you for your contribution to the VFX world. What we've been talking about is relatively more technical compared to other sessions today, but I like to go back to what we were talking about. Even though what we're saying is technical, however, we serve creativity and also content and also culture. And using technology, we can give more temperature or warmth to creative content. And now I'd like to move on to Dr. Guo. I know that recently you worked with the artist Huang Yi in Taiwan on this robotic filming system. You're connected to 4G cell phones to do computing. So it incorporates the human touch with robots, but also with computing. It seems like an interesting project. Can you talk about that? We talked about the trajectory of film production and how theater is a part of that. And what's very important in that is computing. And computing in this day and age has to be cloud-based. So for us at NAR Labs, what we're doing is to realize many possibilities. For different applications, we need to work with our partners to take their imagined scenarios and to find the technologies available and to integrate systemically to help our partners. And throughout the process, we discover our blind spots. And so for users, no matter where they're located, and even if they don't have very good internet access, they may be able to use our cloud service, because we at the Ministry of Science and Technology are offering these services so that it can be used for all. And throughout the process, the platform that we provide actually is a co-creation between us and our partners, maybe in animation. For example, there is a famous director in Taiwan, Cao Ruiyuan. The TV dramas that he makes is actually computed on our platform. And there's one other director who has his projects computed on our platform. We've also supported young students in making animations. So we are very happy to be able to help them complete their first ever animation project in life. And so through computing, we can see that in building a cloud-based environment, how much support we can provide. And recently, we've worked with the artist Huang Yi. And I think it opened up new doors for us. I take dance lessons with the Cloud Gate dance troupe in Taiwan, and I was looking forward to working with Cloud Gate dance troupe. And this collaboration started by working with Huang Yi because he was a choreographer with Cloud Gate. And he is also a performer who has established his own dance studio. So the way that we work with performer Huang Yi is that we used robotic arms with cameras to film the dancers in the Huang Yi studio. And the images are transmitted to the NAR lab back to our data center. And the images are computed so that the dancers' surroundings, we could add, for example, butterflies or mists. And the butterflies or the mist, these images can be transmitted back to the theater or to the performing site. So we use about 100 megabytes per second. And in terms of computing, it's no longer about computing per se. And in terms of the graphic cards that we use, we can accelerate the speed of transmission. So people can use 4G technology and access this kind of technology so we provide the best effect. And we are continuing to evolve. So for the artist Huang Yi, we hope that in the performance that they will put on next year, we can lower the transmission time to less than 0.3 seconds. So recently, if you looked at the latency for AWS, which is 3 seconds, and that is already a benchmark. But by working with Huang Yi, in order to help with the performance, we have upgraded our system to provide the best quality. So that's something we can work on together. And in Hollywood, we know that there are many VFX professionals that we admire very much. But I have to say that actually in Taiwan, there are people in the world of technology and arts that are doing great work, that have become trendsetters. So this is something that we are doing to contribute to our society, to create new synergy. So that's something we are very proud about. We're able to work with wonderful animation professionals or new media artists or people in theater. So we're also very grateful for that.
分享。
Thank you, Dr. Kuo. Less than 1 second latency on your cell phone, being able to watch real performers performing with robots, and to be able to watch the special effects at the same time with such little latency. Thank you for sharing that with us. Next, let's move on to Jiaqi. You mentioned that you have been working on developing new techniques or technologies. Have they helped you to increase the efficiency of producing animation? Are they related to capturing technology, scanning? What are the new projects you're working on? Thank you for your question. Taiwan TDAL, Digital Model Database, is a project that we are working on as well. We are scanning or drawing animations of our architecture, old and new. People sometimes think that this is only applied to animations, but this could be really applied to create different sorts of scenes in filmmaking. Sometimes when we want to shoot movies, we need to apply to the city government to apply for a permit to use a certain block in our scene. However, in the future, we might be able to use what's already in the database, and it's as real as the way that the scene would look as we would shoot it in a real-life situation. So you can scan architecture, you can scan people. In the past, you do 3D scanning of people, and then animators would then draw in the skeletons and add in the facial expressions. In recent years, there is the volumetric capturing technology. It is it is combined with 4D view. So this is you just basically use the 4D view to scan a person's movements. So this has reduced greatly the time needed for the animators to work. So it captures the fabric, your movement, everything's captured, and it could be used in 3D scenes. And we have also developed for something called a 4D rig. This is very similar to what I just talked about. So you could scan the architecture building, you scan people and composite it into any scene. So the goal is very specific. It is to reduce the time, the labor needed from the animators. So we're using these new technologies, the new algorithms to achieve these goals. So this is just an example of the many projects that we're working on right now. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. In the past, we tend to joke that the animation industry is the most labor-intensive industry. However, now, with everything being able to be captured, being able to be turned into data to be used in a virtual situation, this situation is changing. The next question is for Norman. Virtual production has many aspects that we could discuss. In your experience, as someone who is involved in virtual production, many people say the line between special effect and games is being blurred. And I think in the interest of time, I would just combine the two questions that I have for you. In the virtual studio, we understand that VR and AR are playing very important roles. What kind of roles do they play in this scenario? Sure, I'll try to answer your question. Games. In GDC, virtual GDC, I gave a talk on how games can be integrated with films and animations, or they overlap. So gaming engines being used for content creation or for asset generation. Since 2000, many gamers are producing early UGCs. Machinima, for example. Machinima uses games' internal assets and mechanisms to create short animation films. CryEngine in 2004 and Source as well, in the same year, came up with something that is built in the animation producing tools that are embedded in the games. So many of these latest developments are launched by the corporations themselves. They wanted to create short films based on their own assets within the games. For example, with CryEngine, they believe that now the time has come for them to use real-time rendering to cross over to special effect production. So these two companies came up with these tools in the same year. And of course, there are other companies that became involved. For Jungle Book and Photon, Boson, these type of process tools have given rise to many different types of process design, and these were all done by Unity. And many other games are using the same technology. And Lion King, a similar technology. So I think in 2015 in GDC, a short film was launched. It's called The Boy and His Kite. Real Player One. So it is a statement to the world that the quality that we could expect from a professional film can be achieved within an animation, within games. So that's an aspect that we are working on: real-time animation, generation, data capturing. Now we're taking the foundation we have already laid down and taking it a step further. For example, the real-time light tracking and computer algorithm computing. It's combined with the multifunctionality with the engine. We are able to come up with new ideas, new approaches. During the third fourth's presentation, it is mentioned that these technologies were used in previs. For example, the games are what you see is what you get. So you could see that I make a change, you will already be able to see the final results. For the previs in the early stage, you are using Maya Motion Builder to use real-time feedback to get the results. So these previs companies, they were able to achieve it, but they've been working on enhancing the quality. So we're not just doing blocking or virtualization of movements or the design of light and shadows or simulating the scenes that are coming up. So it is a gradual process over the past 10 years. They were going from something that they were doing for fun, visualization to animation to previs to today. We are even enhancing the quality of previs that it's almost indistinguishable from the final products. So we're making great strides here. So the gaming engine is being used in broadcasting, special effect, animation production. Next question, I think you asked me about the roles of AR and VR. Gaming engine is the tool that you use to drive AR and VR. In VR, we are constantly experimenting with new experiences and new experiments. I think for AR, as Chris already mentioned, the Cyclops combines AR and spatial anchor. So now you have a pad that you have in your hand, and then you could throw in virtual assets and to scout the site. For example, I have something that's in the warehouse, and I have some virtual objects I will want to put it in this warehouse. So these objects their reflectance, light reflectance, and can be captured. So this is a great development. Thank you. Now we are moving on to Q&A. I know that many of you have raised questions over Slido. However, why don't we take a question from our audience on the floor? Does anyone have any questions? No, looks like you're still working on your question. Maybe we will move on to the questions on Slido that people have submitted online. For virtual studio, applied to making TV series or films? Would it be in the future be applied to live event exhibitions or concerts? With the arrival of 5G, would the new technology enable us to have real-time capturing or real-time algorithm, so such a technology could be applied to live performances? Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, interesting question. We talked about a wide variety of technologies across the panel today. So, some of them we can imagine, possibly running in real time. The ability to basically digitize a person live and then transmit them as a virtual avatar. It is possible. There is one version of our light stage technique where we have people surrounded with depth sensors. We can process the 3D model in real time and get it textured in real time, and then show it from novel points of view and novel lighting somewhere else. Right now with COVID, a lot of performers are trying to find a way to reach their audiences from their home. And one of the ways they do it is sometimes they send a motion capture suit to the singer's home, and imagine John Legend or Alicia Keys or someone like that, and they wear the motion capture suit. Some studio makes a digital avatar, and then in real time they puppeteer this digital avatar in one of the virtual reality platforms out there, and you can watch it in a web browser or in VR. A technology that we're working on at Google right now is light field video, which is a way of filming video in a way that you can move your head around inside the video after the fact. So that if you're wearing a VR headset, you can put on this VR headset and really feel like you're somewhere else, not only looking around, but as you shift your viewpoint, you can actually look around objects, see what's behind things, move closer to objects, move further away, and feel much more natural and three-dimensional and immersive. And I would love to use cloud computing to give a virtual concert of not a digital avatar of someone, but the artists themselves playing their instruments, singing their song, as if they're right in front of you, and their entire audience, without any worries about virus transmission, can be closer than 2 meters and experience that.
好的，谢谢 Paul 的分享。那目前是有这个
Now there's the mocap performance, immersive performance that are being developed. I think it's only a matter of time that people could see live performances being transmitted to them while they are enjoying the comfort of their own house. Are there any other questions from the floor? If there are no questions from our audience here with us, we will move on to the second question submitted via Slido. Virtual production or virtual studios have given us more efficient ways to shoot films. However, how does it affect the sense of reality of the actors? And I think this person is talking about the green screen or someone who is shooting outside the studio. I'm not quite sure how to answer this question, but we'll ask Jiaqi to respond. There's two types of virtual studio. The early stage, you have a blue studio or green studio, and then we shoot someone, then we use CG composite to create the final result. So the lighting, the director, everybody on site finds it hard to get that sense of authenticity. For a lot of the directors, you're moving your cameras around, you're trying to get a good angle. Sometimes you have a green background. It's very hard for you to get a grasp of how to position your camera. Now we have the LED virtual reality studio. So in the so you can see the composited images real time. So whether it's a lighting technician, whether it is the director, you get a better idea of what to expect, what will be coming your way. So this new technology is helping us to solve these problems that concern us in the past. I would like to respond. When it comes to costs, people talk about the shooting cost or the asset generation cost. LED saves cost because it saves the time. Sometimes you need 5 or 6 takes to create a certain performance. Sometimes with the new technology, you only need 1 or 2 takes, and there's less takes being needed. There's more continuity. So this LED studio enables that. It enhances the overall efficiency of the shooting process instead of just with regard to generating virtual image. Yes, it is true. Very good perspective.
非常
So we are coming towards the end of our session. We would like to thank Paul for staying up late to join us. Thank you so much.
Great to see everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Hope to be in Taiwan for the next one. And just on that last question about these LED virtual production stages and what the actors think of it, all the actors that I've talked to and I've seen interviews, they absolutely love it. They don't have to act on green screen all day. Green screen gives you a headache and it makes you feel like you're in nowhere. These LED panels look great to the act. They actually look better to the actors than they do to the cameras currently at this point. But they create a great effect for that, and it makes it a lot more fun to direct. So I hope we'll see more of this. I hope we'll see more of this great work going on in Taiwan as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. People don't like green screens that much, and the LED lights is much better. I'd like to invite all of the panelists to stand up as we are going to have a virtual physical group photo with Paul. So can we have everybody?
Virtual photo with Paul.
A virtual photo with Paul. All right, look into the camera.
Hey, Paul, so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you.
Have a good night. Hope to see you in Taiwan.